Two. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Winning Browns podcast. We are two Indian kids in high school that are trying to win more fans than the Browns have won Super Bowls in their franchise's history. It's
By the way, we beat that. We beat that. We beat that already. We beat that already. We finished that. We finished that. What we're moving on to next is getting more fans at this than the Browns can ever dream of. That's what we're about to do right now, right? See,
that's
that's the
hard. The
trajectory.
dog pound is really that dog pound really, that's a hell of a fan base.
No, 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 no. They're a good fan base, but they know they're not gonna win as many
Oh yeah,
Super Bowls as we're
absolutely.
gonna
Yeah,
get.
yeah, yeah. We're definitely
Exactly.
better than
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, we got a bunch of news today involving training camp specifically, and a
Mhm.
couple things outside of that, outside, let's say, the whole premise of what training camp is in general. Of course, we have the main story with Jonathan Taylor and um his predicament with the Indianapolis Colts and mainly their owner Jim Irsay, as well as the um, the diabolical that might not be the right word, but the
It
dram-
is a word.
the
It is a word.
histrionic conflict between uh, current
Man
Broncos.
is pulling out all the AP English words out right now. Look at this, man. Premise, diabolical. Man's pulling out all the words he got. All right, go ahead, go ahead.
Hey, histrionic was actually a term for us, but no, we're gonna get the conflict between talk about the conflict between current Broncos head coach Sean Payton and
And
um
Rodgers.
and the head coach or the offensive coordinator of the New York Jets,
Coordinator.
Nathaniel Hackett, led to some backlash from Aaron Rodgers, the new
Yep.
Jets quarterback. We're gonna talk
Mhm.
about what our opinions on those comments are, and then just a few other main headlines of training camp, the injuries, kind of like how the new
Sure.
systems implemented, etc. Um,
Then we got a little bit of fun. We got a little bit of fun. So to finish this off, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a all breakout team. The NFL actually released an article a couple of weeks ago, right, Josh? I think it's a couple of weeks ago, on the all breakout team. We're gonna give our all breakout team. Tell us in the comments how you feel about that. And then at the end, we're gonna have a little fun session called "What Would Happen." Right? So this is going to be a random scenario that, if had happened, what would have happened in the future? What could have been the result? What would have happened to the NFL? So stay tuned for that because we got a really, really, really good one coming up. And hint, it's related to Yash's favorite Super Bowl team. Just saying.
and
Just saying.
one more thing, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We are trying to hit that. We really are trying to live up to that motto of ours, and win more fans than the Browns. But we can't do that without you guys. And really
Yep.
appreciate the love on the last video. And we hope to grow our channel over time, even more. But let's
Yep.
get to it. The first
Sure.
thing that we really want to talk about is the whole conflict between Jonathan Taylor and Jim Irsay. A lot of things, a lot of different a lot of different rumors going on about like what the situation is about. A lot of unclear information, but the whole idea of what happened is that Jim Irsay made some comments involving how running backs should be paid, and let me look them up for a quick, to be specific. Where is it? Okay, here we go. Um, Jim Irsay, where did it go?
Pause. Jim Irsay.
Yeah. Okay.
Pause.
So Jim Irsay made a few rare comments or a few comments about how the running backs get paid, calling the reopening of deals very inappropriate, saying that the NFL already negotiated a CBA, and now that the fact that the running backs are kind of like wanting a new negotiation, it's selling bad faith. Um, and then following that, almost immediately after that, Jonathan Taylor, who is on the final year of his 4-year rookie contract, requested out from the Indianapolis Colts. Um, he didn't. He does. I mean, it kind of makes sense. He
Yeah,
he doesn't really. I mean, if he's not going to be in an organization that he's going to be respected in, for what he's done over the last 3 years, it kind of makes sense why he want out, obviously. And then after that, Jim Irsay continued to go off. He's talked about how we'll not trade Jonathan Taylor, not now or not October. That's the main quote. And then he had some really weird comment where it was like, if I die tonight and Jonathan Taylor's out of the league, no one's gonna miss him. The league goes on. I just found that really weird, but in general, I mean, it's pretty much the standard management versus player type conflict.
sure,
Uh,
sure.
but what do you think
I
about that?
think personally, I'm going to touch base on a lot of points here, a lot of different directions, but it's going to ultimately come down to a couple of points. Um, Look, Jim Irsay, he's an old school type manager. He's not going to be that type of guy who's going to suck it up and be like, I want this player specifically. He's not going to be that type of player, or that type of manager, or owner, if I should say. He's going to be a type of guy who is really strict about what he's going to give. You don't take that. You don't take that. I mean, he's really that type of guy. For some owners, Eddie DeBartolo, and then you have the Rooney's for the Steelers who've done that for a long time. They've been very strict in terms of the money that they're giving. It's worked, but with the current age, unfortunately, unfortunately or fortunately, I'm maybe I don't understand the full metrics behind the money system, but players do often ask for a lot more than maybe needed at times, but they do often ask for a lot. And sometimes owners who have such a strict mindset, they're not going to have that flexibility to give into those players. See, what owners have to look at is a couple of things. I'm also going to speak on JT's perspective in a minute, but I just want to look at Jim Irsay's perspective. You see, what he has to look at is, look, 3 years ago, if I'm not wrong, 3 years ago or 2 years ago, it was in the COVID year. The Colts made the playoffs and put up a pretty good battle against the Buffalo Bills, an up and emerging team. With Stephon Diggs coming in, and they were looking good for about the first 3 quarters, and then they fell off obviously in that fourth quarter. But they were a very solid team that year, 11-5, good offense with Phillip Rivers and JT, especially making his splash in the NFL. I think that year, if I'm not wrong, I think in the NFL that year. Um, but overall, you've seen an insane decline from that playoff season to now, right? So from an owner's perspective, I'm thinking, look, if there's any positives about this team, JT is really the only positive. Like the big player positive, it's Shaquille Leonard, and then it's Jonathan Taylor. From that perspective, JT's that. So if we're thinking from a money perspective, and we're not thinking from a team perspective, that's what I'm getting from these type of quotes personally. Now I'm going to speak on JT's perspective. Yash said a very important word there, although from his insane AP English vocabulary, this is probably the most simple word he put out: disrespect. And the term disrespect here can be used in many different ways. Number one, I say this with, genuinely, when this happened, it felt like a disrespect to the NFL, to its history, and to its future. When you hire an individual who was a center in the league and then was not in the NFL, pretty much, I mean, he was working under the Colts, I will give you that, but he was mainly an ESPN broadcaster who spoke about, a lot of different variety of factors. Granted, he was probably my favorite ESPN analyst almost all the time, but is he an NFL head coach? No. The years and experience that it takes for one to become an NFL head coach, and then you're on an ESPN radio show or whatever it is, and then you just get pulled down here. From JT's perspective, that's disrespect. Is showing that to, I think to him it was like, you're just pulling up a random guy thinking he can make me a better player. That's not right of you. That's not showing commitment to the team, right?
Top of this, you get, of course, these comments in the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, it just, I think disrespect gets built up upon there. And then obviously the team situation, they're free agency wise, they're not really trying to go for it. But I will say this last thing I'll end off with. Surprisingly, going into this year, head coaching candidates, whoever got hired this past year, I'm not very high on them. I'm not the biggest fan of all the people who got hired. I'm just gonna, I mean, they're good, but are they the best fit for their team? I didn't know I didn't feel like many, except Shane Steichen. I mean, if you think about it, what he was able to do with Jalen Hurts, that running system, a good offensive line that they could improve on in the future. They had obviously AJ Brown, a beast. He can build that with I think Micah Pittman Jr. They have a really good ground. And Jonathan Taylor is the main piece because now he's brought in Anthony Richardson, who, like Jalen Hurts, actually he's faster than Jalen Hurts. You could debate he has a potential for a stronger arm than Jalen Hurts. He has an offensive line group that has a lot of talent that can be nurtured and put together. He has Jonathan Taylor, who, if put in the right system, can be the best running back in the NFL. I believe. I personally believe he can. Micah Pittman Jr., is he going to be the best receiver? No, but he's going to have those values, in terms of the slants, those cuts, or whatever they want to do with that option type of offense. So with JT on the cusp of leaving, Shane Steichen, in terms of putting an offense together, his chances are so much worse now. That was the one thing I was really hyped up about going into this whole season. But that's my perspective on JT's whole situation with the Jim Irsay. It just, to me, it feels like it's more of a money over team, and those type of situations will never lead to a Super Bowl. It's just, I mean, yeah, that's my perspective.
For me, I'm gonna give four different views. Firstly, it's the Irsay point of view, and I think this is probably the most important, given it's Jim Irsay's making the most comments. Um, I'm not, yeah, I mean, I've never particularly been a big fan of Jim Irsay. I have a friend who's a huge Colts fan who a few years back, he and I had an argument. He thought Jim Irsay was a pretty good owner for what it's worth. And I kind of gave him
Mhm.
why he wasn't. He was very temperamental. He's very hands-on. And we've seen that
True.
more, especially over the last year or so with with the Irsay thing. And he makes the worst comments at the worst possible time. I mean, we're
Hmm.
not just talking about the last 2 years. I mean, if you remember, he had that whole thing where he said something. I'm paraphrasing here. I don't want to go, but he said something in the sense of when Andrew Luck had the whole injury with his shoulder, and then he also had that ruptured spleen, if I'm not mistaken. He kept getting hurt every year. Irsay said something in the sense of the only injury that he has is in his head, which I mean, that's incredibly disrespectful to any person, any athlete, or like who works dedicatedly and not no. I mean, this is Andrew Luck, who he was the Colts for 6 years. He was the only reason really why the Colts had any sort of relevancy during the mid 2010s.
Yeah.
And then you look at, I mean, the last few years, he's just made dumb comment after dumb comment. Hiring Jeff Saturday, you talked about that. I didn't necessarily have the problem with the actual interim hiring of Irsay per se, given that, okay, he was just an interim. I had more with the approach that he did it, because like it seemed as if Irsay was kind of preparing him so to be, to be a head coach down the line. That's definitely disrespectful, right? I mean, you have guys in there who work years and years to try to get those head coaching jobs, right? And then he of course made that comment that was just stupid as hell. The whole I don't know how to make sausages, but I know how to make a football team, right? And then now you're just like, you run your mouth over like all these different players, the guys you want to draft. I mean, at some point or another, somebody's going to feel disrespected, and I really think
Yeah.
it goes to just kind of talk about kind of why the Colts have been stuck in mediocrity.
Sure.
Irsay is not 100% wrong when he says he knows how to run a football team, in the sense he's hired good people. I mean, Chris Ballard's not a bad GM by any means.
No.
He's drafted some really good players.
Frank
Frank,
Reich on that matter too. Yeah,
Frank
go
was a
ahead.
good
Yeah.
coach. Shane Steichen was a good coach. And I mean, I'll get to that in a sec, as far as both those guys, really. But I mean, when you like at the same time, Ursay's kind of Ursay's, I don't know what the word, eagerness and simultaneous stubbornness kind
Mhm.
of hinders him and the Colts from actually going anywhere. So they're just stuck in this constant cycle of, okay, we have some hype. Oh, we have Carson Wentz who might, have a great year, or oh, we might have Andrew Luck, we might win a Super Bowl this year. Nope, Andrew Luck decides, now's the perfect time to retire. I don't blame him for that. Carson Wentz, he's playing well the first 14, 15 games of the season, and everyone starts feeling an air of arrogance, and they get ahead of themselves. And the last 2 weeks of the season, they fall apart. And then Irsay and Ballard and Reich, pretty much, they ostracize Wentz completely. I don't think it was completely deserving of them to, ostracize him in that way where, that felt a little disrespectful too. Don't get me wrong. I think Wentz was well in over his head at that point, but
Sure, but I mean, still,
yeah, exactly.
I just want to
goes with Jonathan Taylor, and he's a far better player than all these guys, and that goes to the value part. Jonathan Taylor's been your best player of the last 3 years, no doubt about it, right?
Exactly.
You're letting go that guy while you're simultaneously rebuilding, while you have a team like you said with Shane Steichen. The Eagles were the best running offense in the league.
Exactly.
Been one of the best over the last 2 years. You lose Jonathan Taylor, and at this point, you're putting more pressure on a rookie quarterback who's predominantly known for rushing. He's not great accuracy-wise. I'm not a big fan of him as far as just whether he's going to ever become more accurate. I don't think so.
But again, that's the thing I will say, though. When it comes to quarterbacks, and I'll say this specifically Lamar Jackson, okay? When we think about Lamar Jackson, okay, the reason why the Ravens almost have repeatedly been on the cusp of a playoff or in the playoffs since Lamar Jackson's arrival, right? Or at least when he started. We can say at least when he started. They haven't been.
No, they win every time when he's on the field. That's not the problem.
But Lamar Jackson's not necessarily the most accurate quarterback.
Yeah.
He's a running quarterback.
Like, here's the difference, though. Like, Lamar, say what you want, he's still a pretty accurate passer, just not like Mahomes type level. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people compare him to Mahomes. You can't really compare anybody to Mahomes, but you can't really compare him to any elite passer in general. He's a 63% career.
He's different. Yeah.
Yeah. But like Anthony Richardson reminds me more of Cam Newton than he does Lamar Jackson as far as his passing ability. Cam Newton career-wise, 7% completion percentage quarterback, right?
But that's my point. See, the thing is, he has the potential to be. See, he reminds me of Lamar Jackson in terms of legs and the speed, but Cam Newton when it comes to power, strength, arm strength, maybe accuracy, I'm not sure. Arm strength, maybe, right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
He seems like that, but it's just that I feel he has great potential if Jonathan Taylor is there. Because then what happens is he becomes unpredictable. From there, you start to win games because you don't know who to target.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that goes into like the third thing. As far as the management goes, like we talked about this last episode with the running backs, just like the value of the running backs. But at the same time, again, if we're talking about value and talking about like the management standpoint, Taylor's been your best player. Same thing goes with Saquon Barkley. I really like, he's your best player. You should pay him as much as the value is to the team, right? As far as just the money goes, like I don't agree with you in the sense of, he's being like, like some players ask for too much money. Like the cap increases every year, so I mean it makes sense.
I mean that's there, but like there have been some really over the top deals. There have been some
I think most of those deals have been like with quarterbacks, not running backs, right? Like that's where the really problem.
Well, obviously running backs don't get respect. I'm just saying in general. If we look at positions in general, I'm not saying running backs. Okay, first of all, running backs are a wholly different category because they don't get at all the same respect as any other position in the NFL, right? Kickers and punters excluded, obviously, because I mean we don't really understand their effect unless we're in that type of head coaching setting. But speaking on NFL on punters and kickers, you should watch that interview that Bill Belichick gave on special teams. That is the most beautiful description and most detailed description behind something that does not seem popular. that is so complicated in itself. So definitely search that up right now. It's a really great interview. If you want to learn football, definitely watch that. But coming back to the point, if you look at receivers, you look at quarterbacks, offensive guards, defensive linemen, backs. I mean, look, I'm not saying they're asking unreasonable, but at times it does go over. And the reason why I keep saying this is because the mentality has become how much money can I make over how many championships that can I win, right? That's how the the players have slowly become. If you think about Jalen, the whole, um, there have been a lot of scenarios. I don't want to mention all of them because I want to move on to the next topic, but I'm just saying, from a money perspective, it's there. I'm not saying it's completely off, but I do think it's just tipping over the edge for some players. I just don't. I'm not very much in
Yeah.
line with that.
I mean,
That's me.
I don't agree. I don't completely agree with you, but I understand where you're coming from. I think just, and then the final really thing, the only other point really I had is just from a fan standpoint, it's kind of sad, really, just like the whole situation. I mean, I didn't get like we talked slightly a bit about the Colts last episode. Um, I think that the Colts with what their team looks like, they could be a really fun team next year, especially if
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor, like
Yeah.
skill wise, they're nowhere close. Don't get me wrong, they're nowhere close to the greatest show on turf, but they have pieces that remind me kind of the how the greatest show on turf played, if you get what I'm saying,
I
right?
agree with you on the running back. That's about
No,
all I
it's
can
not
agree
just the
with you.
running back. Literally, I mean, look, like what defined the greatest show on speed or the greatest show on turf? Speed and route running, right? And
Route
playing.
running. That's my point. That's my point. Route running. Micah Pittman's about your best route running ability right there.
No, you not really. I mean, you look at Josh Downs. I'm a huge fan of Josh Downs route running. I think this guy has,
Is he Isaac Bruce level? No.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think as far as skill goes, they're anywhere close to the greatest show. I'm just saying as far as the game plays, right? Like,
Okay. I mean, you're saying they have a talented running back, a
yeah,
talented quarterback.
yeah,
Okay. I see.
exactly.
I see from that
So like,
perspective.
I
Okay.
mean, if you look at like with Josh Downs and who's the other guy I'm thinking of? Paris Campbell. Paris Campbell might have left. I might be wrong about that, but Josh
Yeah.
Downs. I mean,
Hmm.
they're speedsters. Like they can burn receivers. And then you have like guys like Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce. These guys, they can, if you throw the ball deep to them, they're coming down with the ball. They're jump ball receivers, 6'4". They will go and grab that ball. And
But I don't think that's the situation that will come. I
right,
don't think Shane's recycling will run
right.
that type. But I see
You
what
know
you're
what I'm
saying
saying? Like
in terms of the
I'm not
potential.
saying that the Colts are gonna like succeed with that. I'm just saying that you look at that offense, that's gonna
There's
be a fun
potential.
offense to watch. And then you have like the running back with Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson with the way the Eagles ran last year with Shane Steichen, right? I mean, you can open
Mhm.
a lot. And this is not just with the running, like the passing too. I mean, the Eagles, Jalen Hurts dropped back the fifth most of any quarterback in the league. And that
That
was a
is true. That
huge
is true.
jump in comparison to the
Tomorrow.
previous year and the comparison to the previous year. And you also look at like the offensive line. Yeah, the Colts offensive line wasn't that good last year. They were underwhelming.
There's
They got pieces.
insane potential. See, I
Brian
want to
Kelly,
remind this to
Nelson,
people.
Braden Smith, right? And it's
Hold
like,
on.
I mean, the Eagles had talent, but they were not good in 2020. Shane Steichen and Nick
No,
Sirianni come along and they go back to prime
change it.
2017.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, I'm very high on the Colts if Jonathan Taylor is there. I'm not saying that the immediate playoff team. I don't know. They could be. They really could be.
I don't think so, but like
I mean,
they'll
I
be
don't
fun to
know.
watch for sure.
Honestly, I don't know. If they bring the pieces 2 years from now, they could be a playoff team. I really do because that defense has good talent as well. They have to everywhere there is improvement needed. Okay, it's not like a finished team, but it definitely has a lot of areas to see a lot of like skyrocketing ability.
Right.
So from there, we're going on to a bit of smack talk here. We're talking about a little bit of like a trash talk here, which is really weird. If you don't mind, Yash, I'll start off with this one.
Absolutely.
This is, I mean, I'm really actually excited about this because for the first time, I get reminded of someone like Vince Lombardi or Bill Parcells. I really do because I'm looking at a guy who is not afraid of saying what he wants to say. So Sean Payton, he makes a statement where he's criticizing the way the Broncos offense ran last year and with Nathaniel Hackett coming in. and then the Aaron Rodgers quarterback just firing back at him. I mean, look, I want to bring up a lot of things here, right? Just like the Jonathan Taylor thing, but completely different. You see, I'm gonna start off with Aaron Rodgers. Last year, right, when Nathaniel Hackett left, there were some rumors that Mr. Rodgers, Mr. As Stephen A. Smith says it, I'll say it again. I don't mind saying it again. That bad boy was about to become a
Hey,
real bad boy,
he's a
leaving the Green
man,
Bay
not a
Packers
boy,
and going to the
man.
Denver Broncos. No, no, no. He's gonna be a bad boy. Watch this season. He's gonna be a
He's a
bad man.
man. No, he's a man. He plays like a man.
He was a bad boy last year. This year he's gonna be a bad man. That's what's gonna
All
happen.
right,
He's
all
gonna be
right.
a bad man, right? So that bad man, right? Or let's say at that time bad boy was apparently gonna go to the Broncos. That's what the rumors were saying. And now the Broncos head coach is criticizing him. You see the link? You see the link? Like, it's kind of crazy if you think about it that way. But okay, without controversies, I'll come to a point. This I think it's one of the few times where I've seen a quarterback and then a quarterback invested coach having like a huge rift off between teams that are correlated but really not correlated, right? It's the first time I'm seeing it personally. But I'm gonna speak it truly. I'm a love with head coaches. I like coaches more than players. That's just how I really am. But I'm just not sure if it was the right way to go about it. From Sean Payton's perspective, I don't think it was needed. I'm not sure if it was in some way a sense to motivate his team, saying like, "Look, I'm the new guy in charge here. Your last guy was trash." Apparently, that's what I guess he's trying to say to his players. I'm not really understanding from a psychological perspective. I'm thinking about it like that because that's how coaches motivate their players. It's a lot of Bill Walsh's thinking actually to use the media to propel a psychological motive for their players. That's how Bill Walsh thought, and I'm thinking Sean Payton's kind of got that from that tree, if you want to call it. But it just seems like it's the wrong comment to make. It's just, you're coming out of retirement and then you feel you're obliged to give out these rash comments that are, unprecedented. They're just very, to a decent extent, it shows a bit of lack of maturity. I think personally, disrespectful. Again, I'll use the term, but in obviously a different way. But I want to give props to the bad man himself, Mr. Aaron Rodgers, because, I mean, look, he doesn't have a cheese over his head, but at the same time, he's got lovely cheese pizza there. But still, he's that bad man, right? Um, I just want to say, I think from a quarterback's perspective, when you support your offensive coordinator like that, he doesn't need to. Aaron Rodgers is that type of guy. Like you say something, I'm going to show you on your field. I'm going to knock your team off their socks. So like he's going to be that type of guy. But for him to stand up and say, you know what, why don't you just, keep your mouth quiet? We'll watch it on the field and we'll crush you and go away. Like I think he could have done that, but he needed to say that. And I think that psychologically would help the team a lot because that gives them like an energy. See, the reason why I'm saying that is people say Patrick Surtain is more talented, better than Sauce Gardner right now. They do because Patrick Surtain is the second season insane improvement. He was good, and then he was like really good this season, past season. Sauce Gardner, we don't know. A lot of corners have had great first seasons and then fall out, right? So we don't know about Sauce Gardner. I mean, that's a psychological thing. Hey, I got to be better than this guy. I got to show off, right? You have a receiver class that right now with Alan Lazard, a lot of Green Bay influence there. They need to get amped up. They're like, look, we have to actually win. He's in that bad man mentality. We have to actually. It's kind of like a whole psychological motivation to, I guess, improve the team. But at the same time, it's a message like, watch your boundaries. We know you're a good head coach. We don't know what you can do without the. We know what you can do without Drew Brees. You're not great, right? That's clear. He was good with James Winston, not great. There's a huge difference. With Russell Wilson, he has not worked with any quarterback like Russell Wilson. Okay, so there's a lot of different things that are upcoming within this, but I just feel from Aaron Rodgers' perspective, a ton of respect. Supporting your offense coordinator and your team like that, and then from Sean Payton's perspective, I think it's a bit childish to say the least.
For me personally, I don't have as much of a problem with Sean Payton's comments, just because for me, I'm not that type of guy. Like I like the kind of like the animosity between coaches. I think it adds a little bit of fun to the games. Um, if you remember, we had the whole like Mike Vrabel, John Harbaugh thing with the Ravens and the Titans a few years back. Of course, every time the Ravens and Steelers play with each other, there are comments between both coaches, right? But I mean, there's
Yeah,
respect. I don't know if there was respect here, and I think that's might have been really the only problem with it. It was a little surprising coming out of Sean Payton's mouth, given that
exactly. That's what I was about to think. Yeah.
it's Sean Payton and he's one of the, generally one of the classiest individuals in football. Um, and it came out of left field, so it was rather like it was almost like a why? Why did he do that? But I mean, usually don't have a problem with it. Makes the game more interesting, and we forget like the Broncos and Jets play this year against each other. And then I mean,
Rodgers is gonna go crazy.
yeah,
I'm
Roger,
predicting it right now.
he is.
Rodgers will throw for 350 yards. He'll throw 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He'll have over 60% passing accuracy. I'm predicting it right now. Anybody out there, if you're watching this right now, I'm predicting it right now. Put it on your bingo cards or whatever you want to call it. I'm betting $100. Okay, no, scratch that, scratch it, scratch it. I ain't doing $100, but I'm betting, right? That man is gonna go for 350 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He's gonna have above a 65%. I'm gonna add 65% pass accuracy. Sauce Gardner is gonna lock up any receiver he's gonna go up against. Jets are gonna win. I'm calling
If that
it right now.
happens, YouTube Shorts and TikTok are gonna go wild with oh Aaron
Yeah,
Rodgers
yeah,
revenge versus Sean Payton. Like they're gonna
yeah.
go wild with that.
Seriously. That's
But
gonna be like the Mamba mentality, Kobe type. Bam! Like, that would be amazing. But go ahead.
like okay, I mean, yeah, from Rodgers' standpoint, I mean, even that I was kind of shocked about. Just get generally like he doesn't make those comments, and like you said, like Rodgers doesn't really need to do that. But like Rodgers has been more vocal, and I mean he's been pretty vocal about his love for Nathaniel Hackett. Um, so I mean, I'm not totally surprised about this. But like, I mean, yeah, I mean, the only really opinion I have on this is that it really makes the matchup more interesting. You brought up a point that I really didn't think about before, but I mean,
Sauce
the whole Pat
Gardner.
Surtain versus Sauce Gardner. I mean, they're considered two of the best, if not the two best cornerbacks in
Hmm.
the game. And then you're talking about things with, I mean, you look at the running backs. There's another thing between the running backs as far as Javonte Williams and Jets backup running back Michael Carter. They were former North Carolina teammates. That's going to be an
Hmm.
interesting dynamic how that plays within
Yeah.
each system.
Could be the
Michael
next new
Carter, yeah,
rivalry.
Michael Carter reminds me that way a lot of Aaron Jones in some ways as far as how he plays the game. He's a kind of like I'll take the screen, 3 yards and kind of go off the screen pass and get 12, 13
Okay, I
yards.
see that. Yeah.
Um, and then Javonte Williams is generally the perfect running back for Sean Payton as far
Sure.
as how he
Yeah.
plays.
Sure.
So I think both of those guys can have a big role in that game. So I mean, there's a lot in general to play with as far as that game and how it transpires, especially with these comments. It just makes it more fun. And these are two teams that could be contending for a playoff. So now I'm definitely excited for that. And
I mean, I'm excited for the matchup, but at the same time, I'm just saying, there's a certain line you don't cross.
yeah.
I mean, it's weird, I guess, more than anything. But I mean, it's just, I don't know. It felt like a low blow to me.
Our next section is going to be involving the injuries that have happened in training camp and just some news in general about how training camp has fared with certain teams. I think the biggest news that has occurred in the last few days, as far as training camp goes, has been the calf injury of Joe Burrow, which is supposed to mean that he is out for 6 weeks. And Jalen Ramsey's injury, he had a torn meniscus, which means that he's going to be out until most likely early December. So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that? Just kind of like how that's going to help benefit or not benefit, obviously, but how that's going
Yeah.
to
Sure.
hurt these two respective teams, and
Yeah. So look, both of these teams, they've shown an offensive. Both of them are both teams. I'll say are very offensively minded. At least they've shown a very offensively minded team. Um, the Bengals have shown most improvement over the past few years with the addition of Joe Burrow. I mean, they're a very talented team offensively. Defensively, they also have talent. They need to work around it, but they have talent definitely. Um, See, there's a couple of things I want to touch on. Yash knows this about me, but you guys will learn as the season goes on. You know, Joe Burrow to me, okay, there's just something about maybe I have like a Joe Burrow hate gene that just turns on whenever I hear the word Joe Burrow or the name Joe Burrow, but there's just sometimes you have that one player, that one person on a team that for some reason you just don't like. You respect them, but you just don't like them, right? It's the dichotomy of sports, if you will, and that's just results with me and Joe Burrow. I mean, nothing against the guy. I think he's personally the third or second best quarterback in the NFL. I think he has an extremely talented team. I think he can definitely win a Super Bowl in the next 3 to 4 years if Travis Kelce retires. Um, but like, I mean, honestly, like I think he's so insanely talented. I mean, you have the claim of saying I'm the only quarterback who's beat Patrick Mahomes more times in the regular season. That's an insane claim, especially in the current moment of time. So um, when I come to the injury, the Bengals have a tough road against them, a very tough road. Because if we look at it right now, right, the season starts in how many more weeks? 2 weeks, right? If I'm not wrong, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Hall of Fame game, if I'm not mistaken, is
Oh wait, it's August. What am I talking about?
yeah,
No.
so the Hall of Fame game is on August 3rd, so in 3 days. And then the first game,
First, I think it should be like September 10th,
yeah,
right?
Chiefs
Yeah,
Lions is on September 7th. Uh,
September 7th. So,
yeah, so we're
I
about
mean,
6 weeks away.
6 weeks away, right? See, the thing is, he's going to be ready for season, I guess, injury wise. But is he going to be prepared with the team that he has? That's what I'm thinking, right? As a quarterback, you really need a good, sophisticated quarterback to kind of lead you through the way. He has. I mean, they haven't made insane changes on the offense. Well, other than adding in Orlando Brown Jr. on the offensive line, but it speaking from a guy who doesn't like Joe Burrow, I have to sympathize and kind of say this is a very very hard blow for the Bengals. I sympathize with the Bengals fans and Bengals in themselves as an organization because I can't imagine how lost they are as to what are we going to do next in terms of having a backup quarterback or you know even if he does heal back in 6 weeks, will he be fully ready to go? Those situations. Um, Personally, I'm not an offensive guy, so Yash would be able to explain, the metrics and the analytics behind how much that would differ and the effect that he has. But I'll speak about Jalen Ramsey. Look, this past year he has digressed, but he is still. You could debate he's a top six, top seven corner in the league right now. Okay, has he digressed? Yes, but he has the potential to go back. I mean, really, he is an amazing corner. He really is. I mean, previous season, no. Even the Rams Super Bowl season, I was high on him, but looking into the tape, he wasn't as great. But still, I mean, he has an insane potential. His physique is one thing by itself. I love most him about his tackling ability. That as a corner, having that tackling ability with you is just so helpful, especially for your run defense. Because sometimes, as Bill Belichick says, set the edge, set the edge. I mean, he says it in a much better voice than I just said it right now. But those type of things are so essential, right? Because if that cornerback gets outside, corners are assumed to be very weak. So these running backs are able to be tackled. And then Jalen Ramsey, he has that physique where he can tackle them relatively easily. He has that type of physique to back it up. And I'll say one more thing: Vic Fangio is a defensive mastermind when it comes to the defense. If you look at his years in Chicago, Broncos had a great defense when he was actually there. They had a great defense when he was there. With the Chicago Bears, Brandon Staley, offensive linebacker, assistant coach, by the way, there. And then he was there in San Francisco as well, acting as a defense coordinator. He did great. He did pretty good there too. So he's had success as a defensive coordinator, coming into such a talented defensive team too now. When you lose a cornerback as big as that, now that I think about it, it's not exactly the biggest problem. Reason why I say that is this. Last season, if you think about the cornerbacks and the team defensive unit as a whole, they were a pretty talented group. Vic Fangio is known to develop talented groups like that. He doesn't take time or over a period long. He can do it like that. He has that ability. So it's not as big of a loss as people think. Is the system going to change? Yes. Then what he prepared, yes, it will change. But I'm not sure if it's going to be the biggest loss. The reason why, they still have Tua Tagovailoa, injury prone, but they still have Tua Tagovailoa. They have Jalen Waddle, they have Tyreek Hill, and that monster speed offense. And they also have Raheem Mostert. People have been sleeping on him, but that speed unit is going to have a lot of effect. Their defense is going to vastly improve with or without Jalen Ramsey. It's going to vastly improve based on the fact that Vic Fangio is known for taking talent like that and just moving up to the top much quicker than any other defense coordinator in the league right now. So, with all those things being said, at the current moment in time, the Miami Dolphins are not as of a loss as they think they are. That's my perspective on it. The Bengals, yeah, it's going to be a tough. They're not going to be as cohesive, as coherent in I believe, the first 6 weeks, or first 4 weeks. Let me say, I don't think they're going to be as coherent as a team. But I certainly feel the Miami Dolphins are, not at a huge loss. They're at a loss, but not a huge loss.
First off, I want to point out that you used the word dichotomy.
Yeah.
Talking about my AP Lang word.
Okay. Wait. Hold up. That's one. You use five in a sentence. There's a huge difference, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, okay, to start off,
Speaking of Sauce Gardner, he brought the sauce in his English. That's what he did. Exactly.
yeah, he did.
Talking to me about AP English.
But okay, I mean, let's start with Joe Burrow, right? As far as just the getting ready for the season goes, I'm not too concerned about that for the Bengals because I think that we've seen Joe Burrow before when he wasn't really ready for the regular season, so to say. I'm going to put quotes on that. Of course, when he had the torn ACL and MCL back in 2020,
Yeah,
and he
that's different.
later to training camp, he had a few problems with that during training camp, and they kind of shut him down for a little bit, and then moved him back up. We saw in the regular season he was really rusty for the first 7-8 weeks. He was good, but he wasn't
Joe Burrow.
yeah, he wasn't what we've seen of Joe Burrow ever since the last ever I think since week 10 of that year. That's really when he took off, and like by the time they got to the 49ers game, and I'm saying that
Yeah.
game, I got to actually see the foot from start to finish of Joe Burrow since week 1. That, I mean, he really was like, I mean, every throw of his was just jaw dropping, and you really knew there was no going back. Joe Burrow was that guy, right? And this is not a major injury. This is a calf injury that's, it's easy to it's a lot more easy to recover from than a torn ACL and MCL, right? Really though, the main question is like the pressure, you put on that when you throw. But I mean, Joe Burrow could be rusty on it, but if he takes his time with this injury, being it's a 6-week injury, it's only week 1 if he misses, week 2 maybe. When he comes back, the Bengals will be fine. This is not something where it's, oh, he's going to be rusty. An ACL, MCL tear takes a lot more time to recover. Once he's back from the calf injury, he really should be fine. I'm not too concerned about that. They got great weapons. They got a coach who I'm not the biggest fan of, but I do think works well with Joe Burrow. So I think I'm not necessarily saying complete 100% kumbaya, but it should be at least 90, 95%. All right, let's get this on the road. We're a Super Bowl contender. We might have a few rusts. Close to what the Patriots, not exactly, because the Patriots still went 14-2. Um,
Yeah.
what the Patriots went through in 2016 when Brady got suspended for the first 4 games.
Suspended. See
Yeah,
that's different. That's different because
yeah,
they
but
know
I get
that
what you,
first.
but like, yeah, but you get what my point is with that, right? It's just like the
I mean,
same.
I guess when you're saying in terms of like a quarterback not being present,
Yeah, exactly.
I guess. See,
But
for
like,
me, it's this thing, right? See, when Joe Burrow had that ACL injury, he came in training camp and started working through that, right? See, when you have an injury and then you practice through training, I feel training camp is very essential because they have. See, the reason why I feel that is this. I'm going to say that to the offensive line, Orlando Brown Jr., and I'm going to specifically say this because the entire media was on a whole, media frenzy, if you will, about the offensive line of the Bengals when they started. You remember that Titans game or whatever? It was like 7 sacks or something crazy,
yeah,
I think. But with the addition of Orlando Brown Jr., um, there needs to be a connection, especially between a tackle and a quarterback. That needs to be established. And unfortunately, it's not over a barbecue dinner or it's not over some, like Chick-fil-A or something you want to watch on a Sunday or something. It just doesn't happen that way. Way you establish that connection is through training camp, from shouting and yelling to hugging and pretty much loving, each other as teammates. So that's how it kind of happens most of the time. If you look, so that's one of those things I'll bring up, but at the same time, he has to also worry less because he's got now a much more talented offensive line.
right. But at the same time, I'm gonna be like straight up about the whole Burrow value thing. Like at the end of the day, you're not gonna win with Joe Burrow. First off, the Bengals backup quarterback. I forget who it is. I don't exactly.
That's the point. That's the point. You
Um,
forget who it is.
well, I mean, I forgot who the Bengals or the Chiefs starting QB is, and I don't think he's that bad.
Starting QB?
No,
Yeah,
no,
obviously it's not that bad. He's Patrick Mahomes.
no, the Chiefs backup.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah.
Hold up. The backup quarterback of the Bengals is Trevor Siemian. Okay, yeah, I mean, Trevor Siemian is not a bad backup, but he's not a good backup, right? Um,
Yeah.
let's start off with this. Joe Burrow is one of the most valuable quarterbacks in the NFL. All right. There
Yeah.
is when it comes to quarterback WAR, has the fourth highest WAR of any quarterback over the last 3 years. Number one and number two by far are Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Number three is
Yeah.
Tom Brady, who had an incredible year when it came to WAR in 2021, and
Hmm.
number four is Joe Burrow. Um, so and then we've seen the record without Burrow, with Burrow when it comes to how they play, how he was really that Bengals team was really starting to look good the second half of 2020. Then he tore his
Hmm.
ACL, and then they just fell apart the last that last half of the year. Um, I mean, I can get other numbers really like he was seventh in the league, tied for seventh in approximate value. He had the 10th highest QBR in the league. He's had 2 straight years of a 90 plus PFF grade, and he was second in the league in next gen in quarterback score per next gen stats back in 2021, only behind Aaron Rodgers, who obviously won the MVP. He's been the one of the best deep ball passers in the league since entering the game. Um, so you lose Burrow, you're really losing your mojo. And I mean, whether you think he's going to be rusty or at the rusty or not having Burrow for a couple of weeks, that can totally screw up your momentum when it comes to how you play the rest of the year. It's just something. It's something definitely to be weary about. I wouldn't say concerned. That's a little more higher degree, but I'm not too worried about it because it's a calf injury and not say an ACL MCL. Um, but yeah, I mean that's really my only opinion with Burrow. As far as Jalen Ramsey goes, I have a few mixed opinions. As you guys will know or from the show, I'm not the biggest fan of Jalen Ramsey.
No, no,
Um,
no, 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 no. Hold up. Stop. Let me say for you this time, okay? I admitted to mine. I will exactly say how you feel about Jalen Ramsey. Yash feels Jalen Ramsey is
Most
Like
overrated
the
quarterback.
most overrated, not cornerback, but
No,
probably the
no,
most
no, no, no.
overrated
Most
player in the
overrated
entire.
player, you know who I think it is. It's not Jalen Ramsey. I still think Jalen Ramsey is like a borderline top 10 cornerback. There's another guy I think should not start in the game at his respective position. You know who that is?
Well, no.
Kirk Cousins.
I don't know. Wait. Okay. Oh, no. Oh
No,
my
no, no.
God. Oh
Jalen
my
Ramsey
God.
is my
How?
most hated.
How? No. Stop. Time out. Two timeouts. First of all, Jalen Ramsey, I agree. He had a horrible last season. Okay, comparative to the other seasons, he had a horrible last. But that doesn't mean he's like an extremely overrated cornerback. Like he's a really good cornerback. You have to understand, he's a really good cornerback.
He's a good cornerback in the sense of his versatility, in my opinion. That being
Oh
said,
my
okay, hear
God.
me out though. When it comes to this situation, I will be honest. I did say that the when the Dolphins traded for him, it was an absolute a pretty good upgrade over Byron Jones, right? He is way better than Byron Jones, and he is definitely a key piece to this team. I'm not doubting that, right? His versatility brings a great, counterpiece to what Xavier Howard provides on the other side. And losing him, yeah, that's going to be pretty big for the Dolphins. But like you said, as far as the whole like the Vic Fangio thing, like Vic Fan, like the thing I remember about Jalen Ramsey as far as both Jacksonville and with the Los Angeles Rams is that both times he had great pass rush, right? The Dolphins, I'm not going to necessarily put them on the same page as Saxonville. I mean, those guys had five five guys who you can count on in any given down. And with the Rams, they had Aaron Donald, which that by itself speaks miles, right? The Dolphins don't have an Aaron Donald. Christian Wilkins, pretty good player. Jalen Phillips, pretty good player, but they're not Aaron Donald, right?
Bradley Chubb, just putting it out there. Just
Bra-
putting it
I,
out
I
there.
would say, even though Bradley Chubb, you wouldn't put him on Aaron Donald's level on any.
No, but I'm just
Right.
saying, like the collection of these guys
Yeah,
could cost
but
something.
this is where it gets really good though. Vic Fangio blitzes a lot. And I know this as like I'm glad you mentioned the 49ers thing. Um, the greatest blitz as a 49ers fan, in my opinion, in the history of the NFL, I'm
Oh my
being
God.
pick at the stick.
No shot. You just said
No,
that.
I'm joking. I'm joking. Like
On oh,
we,
oh
we
my
know
God.
we know it's not the greatest blitz,
Phew,
but
phew.
as a 49ers
I
fan,
was
by
about to say, if
my
you
opinion,
said that was better than the 46 Bears blitz defense, the Vic Fangio 49ers, better than the 46 the
no, no.
46 defense.
I'm saying that as a fan. I'm being biased and I'm joking.
Oh,
But it's my favorite. But
all our
it's my
fans were about
favorite
to just
blitz of all
put
time.
that down like button on that one. All our fans were about to go
Oh,
like this on
I
that
know,
one.
I
Oh
know.
my God.
No, but
Phew.
it's not the best blitz, but it's definitely for me my favorite blitz. Brings a lot of memories, a lot of screaming. I'm sure there are a lot of crack. I'm sure you guys see there's a crack in the wall in the back of my room. I'm pretty sure that's from me screaming. Either from that day or from the day that the 49ers blocked the punt against the Packers in the 2021 playoffs. One of those two. But regardless, I'm getting off topic. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that Vic Fangio is known for blitzing, right? That
Okay.
blitz kind of really that blitz for the 49ers against the Falcons really kind of defines everything that is Vic Fangio's defenses.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing you know when it comes to defenses is that you get a lot more pressure on the quarterback. It's going to be a lot harder to throw an accurate pass, especially when you have two guys like Ramsey and Howard, who have great ball skills, right? They know how to get in place to get an interception or a pass or a PBU, right?
Okay.
So if you
Yash, I will say
do
one thing though. I'm
your
sorry.
job,
I don't want to interrupt, but so what you said right there, give pressure to the quarterback, right? So that term, that pressure term, the way almost all the NFL sees it is getting to the quarterback, hurting him, doing that type of nasty stuff. Over the years, what I saw with Vic Fangio especially at the Broncos, he did blitz. Don't get me wrong, but not as much as you think. A lot of what he did tactically was to actually pressure the quarterback into taking longer time. See, there's a difference. What he tried to do was he actually tried to create as much of a zone as possible so that he would just have to attack minimalistic players. It kind of goes against the approach of a blitz. but essentially you are putting more pressure on the quarterback because the quarterback's trying to see which way he can throw. If he throws it like this as a middle linebacker and a corner, I remember in this, I was talking to Yash about this in one of our AP Chem classes, when we had like a down break, about how I think it was Jesse Bates, right? If he came in, how you would be able to have a very conclusive system with the 49ers. Um, but the deal that he kind of created, and whatever I talked to you about that day, kind of stemmed from that, was the ability to double team every single player on the field, giving that pressure to the quarterback. Granted, there are quarterbacks who run like heck now, but at the same time, quarterbacks like I said, Kirk Cousins, or who I definitely don't feel is the most overrated or not should not start for his team or whatever it is. Okay, I players like that who can't run, Tom Brady, players like that. If you pressure them into not knowing where to throw, that's another form of pressure. Vic Fangio did try that system in the Broncos. If you look at it from a tactical perspective, statistically, blitzes were definitely more. I'm not gonna lie,
He
but you
blitzed
could
third
see,
most of any team. The Broncos blitzed the third most
yeah,
final year with the Broncos.
but you would see that type of tactical innovation to just throw that in there to confuse the quarterback. Because a quarterback, he immediately, when you're blitzing a lot, the natural instinct for a quarterback is to go. If it's a 5 step drop, he's gonna take 7 steps because he doesn't want to get hit. Like he's
I get
kind
what
of
you're saying.
scared of that,
I get what you're saying.
right?
He's yeah. I mean that way, Vic Fangio is one of the greatest defensive minds in the game right now. As far as
Maybe
just
ever,
how
maybe
yeah,
ever.
maybe ever, yeah. Actually, you're definitely right on that. Maybe ever. I mean, he really plays mind tricks with a lot of quarterbacks, and I think that way the Dolphins definitely will be fine. Um, as far as Ramsey goes, yeah, I have a lot of hatred to him for a lot of different reasons. He played for the Rams,
Oh,
he,
oh,
but like
oh, that's the guy who didn't allow you to go to the Super Bowl. Now I
no,
got
no,
it.
that was Aaron
Oh,
Donald and Cooper Cup. I hate them for
no, 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 no. Oh, that's the guy that messed you up.
nah.
Oh,
If that
okay.
okay, if he messed me up, if he messed us up, then please tell me why Debo Samuel had over 100 yards on Ramsey alone.
All right, couple of things on that. Couple of things. Huge miscommunication between the safety and the cornerback on almost all
Yeah,
situations. There
sure.
were so many situations where the safety had to come over on top, and that never happened. That never happened.
The
I
best
mean,
play that
so
Ramsey made in that game was fighting Robbie Gould, in the NFC Championship.
hey, that's a great play, man. That was a great play.
Yeah, by Robbie
You see
Gould.
those, bro? Do you see those tackles that he made that game?
Yeah.
Those were really good
Yeah,
tackles.
no, I mean
There were,
that, okay, but that's what I was gonna say. Like, as far as Jalen Ramsey goes, the two things you'll know about him that those definitely I have like I think he's one of the best at that. He's definitely the best tackling cornerback in the game. That's not even a question. His
yeah,
instincts, his ability to get to the ball. I made an
hmm
argument that he should play safety, and he used to play that at Florida State.
yeah.
English kind of disagrees with me on that. But I mean, there's a good argument to be made why he could play safety. He's pretty big and he has great insight on getting to the ball and being able to hit the guy very well.
It's a different game.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as just, I mean, that's why he fits in a Vic Fangio system. The thing with the Dolphins, though, is they're not the deepest cornerback team, but given their ability to create pressure and Vic Fangio's ability to have those mind tricks on players, quarterbacks are going to be forced to make a lot more inadvertent plays that they wish they could take back, and that's going to create a lot more chances for the cornerbacks, Ramsey or not. They signed Eli Apple, and
Oh,
yeah, I mean,
good point. Very good point.
Eli
Okay.
Apple is not the greatest cornerback
But
on.
he's an addition.
Yeah, and he's an addition, and I think he'll do well. I mean, his best years were with the Saints when they were pressuring teams like crazy. So he will. I think he will do fine with the Dolphins. He'll be underwhelming, no doubt, and fans will be criticizing him like crazy. But I think he and the Dolphins. I mean, I think he's better than nothing at that spot. And you do have Cater Kahu, if I'm pronouncing that name right, and a few other guys that I think could at least hold the spot till December.
Hmm
And I think from there, the Dolphins should be at least fine. They're still a pretty good roster. And I think they will be able to make the playoffs at least, or at least be in the
Okay. I
yeah.
think that's reasonable. Yeah. So look, that was our I mean, that's really the main things that happened this training camp. So going off that training camp, we're gonna go to the all breakout team, as they've said. Um, Look, we're running a little short on time, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go a little quicker on the all breakout. We're gonna finish out with the all breakout team, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the what would we do, and we're gonna add it to the next next video. So do stay tuned for that. But just due to time constraints, we're gonna go with you know our all breakout team. Um, I'm actually we'll start off with the quarterback position and then we'll alternate. I'll start. You want me to start off?
Yeah, go ahead.
Coming out from left field, Daniel Jones is going to be the star breakout quarterback, I feel, of this season. Kenny Pickett, no. I've already said my opinion about Kenny Pickett. I think that's the one that people might bring up. Um, Daniel, there are other contending quarterbacks that could become that breakout, but I think Daniel Jones is just because of. I mean, we've seen the insane leap that he had from his previous season to this season, and we've seen the kind of the Brian Daboll system, which has fixed itself over a period of time instead of allowing Daniel Jones to be free to run the ball, to progress through the ball. Offensively, the team was already a threat. Okay, not exactly a threat, but they were definitely a we don't know what's going to happen type offense, right? But this season, I think they're still going to be that, but they know themselves we're going to dominate. I think they have that type of mentality because of the previous season. Saquon Barkley is back. We've talked about that situation, but he is back. Essentially, that's still going to create. So with the whole similar, if you want to call it, between the Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor type deal, where they can develop that over a period of time. And the biggest part of this is Mr. Darren Waller, who people have not talked about enough for the past 2 seasons. I think this man will have a breakout year, considering Brian Daboll for almost his entire career was a tight ends coach, and he was also a tight ends coach for arguably the greatest tight end of all time, Mr. Rob Gronkowski. Um, so with that being said, I do think Daniel Jones is going to be the breakout quarterback this year.
For me, I'm gonna go. I'm actually
Kirk
not
Cousins.
gonna go Kenny Pickett. That's gonna shock you. I think he will break out. I just don't think he's going to be the best breakout quarterback, and I think there are going to be a few. I'm also not going to be a homer and pick Brock Purdy or Trey Lance, even though I desperately want to with Brock Purdy, and I think he actually will. I'm going to go with Justin Fields, though. I think he's a safe pick. I think he has shown
Ooh,
over the last
okay.
year. And as far as just every analytical metric goes, he has shown that he really can be that guy. The Bears have shown an investment in wanting to help him run the football. He went
Mm-hmm.
from being the 29th best quarterback according to QBR and having a sub 30
Mm-hmm.
QBR in his rookie season, which only 4 quarterbacks have ever done. And 3 of those
Yeah,
quarterbacks, um, one of those quarterbacks is Zach Wilson, who no longer starts for the Jets and is widely regarded
sure.
as a bust. The other 2 were off their team within 2 years. Justin Fields, on the other hand, jumped 25 points in QBR to 54 this past year. You look at even his PFF numbers, and I mean, we're talking about a massive improvement. Justin Fields in his rookie season, he had a PFF grade of 64.2, and I know that's not necessarily the worst, but for a starting quarterback, that's generally low. That's generally at that point where you start considering benching the quarterback. It's a little less of a increase as far as the PFF grade goes. He jumped to 70.2. But generally, when you get to around the 70 range, as far as breakout, that's generally indicative of, a lot of improvement in the sense of, where you're going to go. If you look at trends, quarterbacks who take a 5 to 6 point jump in PFF grade from year 1 to year 2 generally end up having a 10 point increase in the following years. or in the third year, maybe fourth year sometimes. But Fields hasn't really, and if you want to really break down the tape, same deal. Fields has been an incredible rusher. He's improved as far as his throwing goes. So really, everything kind of shows me that Justin Fields is poised for a breakout year. And then they added DJ Moore, which if it couldn't get any better, I mean, you look at the last few quarterbacks who've broken out. Josh Allen, he got Stephon Diggs, broke out. Jalen Hurts got AJ Brown, broke out. What's his name? Joe Burrow got Jamar Chase. They already had T. Higgins. He broke out. And then we had Tyreek Hill went to the Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa broke out. So in the same sense, we're seeing a trend with quarterbacks who get, a great receiver in their third year.
I will say one thing, though. Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill. I think you mentioned. I'll keep in Darren Waller. I actually no, I won't take Darren Waller in. Tyreek Hill, and then you mentioned somebody else.
AJ Brown.
AJ Brown, right?
And Stephon Diggs.
Are we keeping Stephon Diggs? So these four guys you could put them arguably, well, at least three of these guys you can definitely put in the top 5 receivers in the NFL, right?
Well, let's remember Stephon Diggs wasn't considered an even close to a top 10 receiver when he got traded to the Bills.
Well, he was definitely okay when he was traded to the Bills. He was definitely received as a much better wide receiver as DJ Moore is being traded to the Chicago Bears. I'm going to be honest. DJ Moore to the Chicago Bears, is it a good deal? Yes. Is it a breakout deal? I don't feel it is. I don't think it's going to be that thing that just completely changes, Justin Fields in terms of, I think he's still a great quarterback, don't get me wrong. But I just feel, like you said, Daniel Jones has got Darren Waller, who initially was a receiver for the Baltimore Ravens before getting traded to the Oakland Raiders, where he was pulled in as a tight end. So I do, and especially with Brian Daboll's offensive uniqueness, he does have that leverage to keep him on the outside. So that's where I'm going to go with the quarterback situation. Now, I'm going to do something a little different with the all breakout teams. What we're going to do is, so we just discussed the quarterback, right? What we're going to do is we're going to go throughout the next couple episodes before the NFL season starts, and then by that time you guys will know our entire all breakout team. So we're going to have one offensive all breakout, one all defensive all breakout. So that's how we're going to structure it, as you guys will then slowly get everything together just to make it a little interesting. So that's the offense. For the defense, I'm going to go with safety. I think Yash knows who I'm going to talk about. He's smiling. I think he knows. I think if you don't know, I'm going to be shocked.
I have an idea, but I want to see if I'm correct.
I mean, look. This man is my favorite safety in the NFL. He's my second favorite defensive player in the NFL. He's really the guy. I mean, we talk about long hair. We remember Polamalu, but we're going to remember Tufanga.
Oh, my God. Tufanga.
From now on, we're going to remember Tufanga. I'm going to say this from the top. First of all, this man in the next 2 years will be the best safety in the NFL.
Agreed. And I'm not even saying that as a bias. I think that.
No. Anybody in the NFL knows. After what happened this season, everybody in the NFL knows. I just got to say one play. Rams, pick 6. Yep. That's all I got to say. Because, I mean, really, if you look at that play, almost no safety in their second year will know if a running back is coming off that screen. If he goes the opposite side, tight end is coming on the other side. Matt Stafford takes a 5-step drop, gets one hitch. It's always going to go there. A second-year safety doesn't know that, and he waits. See, it's so risky, because if I go in the NFL, maybe 10 years ago, it was not as pass offense as it is with speed. That's the difference. Speed is the key. He let these dudes fly on go routes and post routes all day. He's like, who cares? I know where he's gonna throw it. 2nd down and 10, I know where he's gonna throw it. Just slowly, technique, everything is so precise. He just slowly moves along. He sees that tight end, bam, goes right there, picks it off to a pick 6. I mean, that's like a Madden type play. Like, those user picks they use in Madden, like, hey, QJB shout out. User picks, like, he just takes that, walks off there with the whole, like, I mean, he's so smart. Number one, he's unpredictable. Number two, he can
Stinky.
tack. Yeah, exactly. He's sneaky. He's like he honestly is so good at tackling. Like people underestimate his tackling. He's very good at tackling. You know, from powerful, he's strong. I mean, he's literally a shorter, faster version of a Troy Polamalu. You know, I love him right now. I'm serious. He's my favorite. No, screw that. He's my favorite player. Second favorite player in the NFL. Second to Justin. Um, Justin Herbert. But I'm really high on this guy. I think he's gonna have a breakout season this season. With especially their defense. You know, the system in which they're positioned. I was doubting Steve Wilkes' system. I'm not the biggest fan of what he's done, especially with the type of players that he has at his at his hands right now with the 49ers. But there's not a question to me actually that this guy is the breakout safety.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I'm I'm not too surprised you said Talanoa Hufanga. I know how big you were a fan of Talanoa Hufanga. Um, I was actually
Yeah,
thinking
quick
of
question. Is it Hufanga or Tufanga? I've heard both ways.
I think he pronounces it Hufanga. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so
Right. Hufanga it is.
yeah, but I mean, I was thinking about him as one of my breakout safeties. Um, but I decided not to go with him just because I feel like he's kind of sort of broken out already, if you get what I'm saying. He's gonna it's like, I don't know, it's a little bit like Josh Allen in his year where he broke out, but then he got way better even the year after, something like that. But I think the guy who's like definitely going to be like the most improved safety, I think is going to be Javon Holland. I'm a huge, if you guys know me, I'm a huge fan of Javon Holland. If it wasn't for Hufanga, he'd be my first favorite safety in that draft. The guy has incredible intelligence and ball skills. He is one of the best players when it comes to baiting receivers. His side to side range when it comes to being a safety is incredible, and his ability to get to receivers and be able to make tackles is just it's just jaw dropping. I think you add in the fact that
Jaw dropping.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean it's not I'm not saying it's like, Minka level, but it's definitely one of the best in the game. And I think that you have him on a secondary that's with Xavier Howard and I hope unfortunately Ramsey is not going to play on this, so we don't get to see the full extent of this Dolphin
Sure.
secondary. But as we brought up earlier with just Vic Fangio, how his defense plays, I think you're going to see Holland play a lot closer to Justin Simmons with the Denver Broncos. You're going to see him get a lot more picks, or at least a lot more chances at getting, picks. And you're talking about a guy who's going to be all over the field, who's going to be, going and getting a lot more chances at, just hitting guys. And I mean, just if you look at Holland in general, he's been a pretty good safety over the last 2 years. He was number 7 according to Next Gen Stats in safety score, and in his rookie season, he was 4th in the league in PFF grade. That's really rare, especially for safety, given how volatile that position is. And I mean, we've seen that kind of like with the decrease in PFF grade as far as safety. Akilish and I have talked about this before, but we're not the biggest fans of PFF, but it does help us in certain ways as far as dictating, how certain
Certainly,
players
certainly.
play in systems and all. And I think one of the harder, and as far as analytics go, one of the harder positions really to grade is a safety, just because there's so many variables that they have to really
Yeah.
look at. But when you have a guy with as many tools as Holland has, I mean, in baseball, there's a term of 5-tool player, guy who can hit with power, throw, run, and field, right? There's, I mean, if you were to give me a safety, I would say you're talking about tools, side to side range, tackling, vision, ball skills, which basically mean how good a receiver is, or a player is at being able to actually, catch the ball. Harder for a cornerback than it is a wide receiver, obviously. And then instincts, basically, how good they are at being able to, get to that ball fast enough and be able to make that play. I mean that's a five-tool safety, and Holland's that's very rare for most safeties. And you look at the fact that he's been very, very good, but he hasn't necessarily been the same level as a Hufanga, let alone a Minka, a Derwin James, an Antoine Winfield Jr. That's why I think he's going to be the breakout safety. I think he's going to be the guy most likely to improve. That's why I'm saying that.
I'll just end off with this, okay? Two things. So I'll remind you, Rod Woodson, probably you could arguably say he's the greatest defensive back to ever play. Hence, because he was a top two safety in the league when he played, and was a top two corner when he played. So you can call him, if you really think about it, one of the best defensive backs ever to play. If you think about the seasons that he played, initially he had one interceptions and then three interceptions the next season with a pretty high passing completion rate, pass deflections. Um, the thing is, he was very good actually one season, three interceptions. He had I think 96 return yards on that. The next season, he doubled up five interceptions, had a much higher incompletion allowing rate. I think if I'm not wrong, he was second or third in the league in deflections allowed that season. The next season, Hufanga reminds me of a guy that can accomplish something like that, just in a different way. See, the reason why I feel he's going to be more of the breakout guy is because the system in which he's with such all-star type players, and I think Wolves is going to change the system up. If he's going to go with that conventional cover four or cover two, I think so. Hufanga will still be the breakout player because even then he has a much more leverage to play inside, outside, whatever it is. I hope he plays a cover one system because that's where Hufanga will thrive. I know he will. But it's just for me, he's going to be the breakout player. You make very good points with Holland, but I don't know. I'm
Definitely.
sold on Hufanga.
Hufanga's
Number two, as a 49ers fan, if I was a 49ers fan, I wouldn't dare do that. How can you take Hufanga, man? I mean, look, I get the whole metrics and the long arm length. You can move side to side and it's jaw dropping or whatever it is, but it's Hufanga. It's your man.
Hufanga's kind of already broken out. That's my
No, he's not already broken out. If you thought last season, okay, when I say broken out, okay, by definition, what I mean is this: he has gone from such a level of unknown to extremely known, right? To such a
back
level
in
that his peak.
2021.
No, no,
Finished the third best safety per next gen stats on safety score. That's
yeah, no, but that's my point. According to next gen stats, if I talk to a group of individuals everywhere and I say name your top three safeties, is Hufanga going to come in?
he's
That's
not
my
in the
point.
top three, but I mean he got voted in the Pro Bowl and was an All Pro for a reason. I mean,
No, sure, he was. But what I'm saying, there are a lot of people who make the All Pro or Pro Bowl team that people just don't know. For example, Kirk Cousins made the Pro Bowl team, but we still hate him, or at least you still hate him.
right, but a lot of people know. Okay, that. I mean, that's a little harder to say just because he's a quarterback, and most people know every quarterback on the team.
No,
Like,
that's my
I mean,
point, though.
let me ask you this: like, most people won't know Miles Sanders, right? A lot of football fans who are like diehard don't know Miles Sanders that well, right?
Sure.
I know, I did not know that much about Miles Sanders until really about halfway through through his rookie season,
Last
right?
season. Okay.
But with
No,
Hufanga,
but Hufanga's different, though. Hufanga's different.
yeah, but with
He's
Hufanga,
not.
I mean, I've seen so many lists of like top five, top 10 safeties, and Hufanga's in almost every one of them. Holland is
Yeah,
one of
but
the guys that every person in the comments section of those lists will be saying, "Where's Javon Holland, bro? Javon Holland is this." And then when they put out like a top 25 list, he's a 25th guy of 25. That's why I'm saying, okay, he's going to
no, but
definitely.
see. Then he may be the best player in terms of breakout talent.
So
Okay.
you're saying
The
like
reason why I
most
said
improved versus breakout.
yeah, there's a difference.
Okay, then I
Breakout
see your
means
point.
he's gonna go out there and he's gonna shatter the world. Is Holland gonna do that? I guarantee not. But he's gonna make a name for himself. I will agree with
I
you
mean,
on that. He will improve. I think he will improve, and he have actually rather than improve, I think he'll have more of an opportunity to improve. I'll say that. I think he'll have more of an opportunity to improve. But from my standpoint, Hufanga unquestionably will be the breakout safety of the year. You guys let us know in the comments what you feel. Look, I mean, uh, we're here to not just you know be another podcast or whatever it is. We're really trying to make not just a name for ourselves, but really enjoy the process as a whole. And a big part of the process is you guys, committing. Um, watching our videos and then giving us that like subscribe button. It's just not we want it or anything. I mean, it feels good in some way to know that other people are also appreciating it, but at the same time we want you to also know that we care about what we're putting out there, the content that we're putting out there, and we genuinely are wanting to make people like and appreciate what we do. And so these type of fun conversations that we have, we genuinely just want to show that to you guys. And as supporters of our channel, we want to continue to give you guys more and more good content, and we hope you guys will enjoy more and more in the future. Me and Yash, we really are committed to this. I mean, right now time is 10:15 in the night. We started at around 8:30. Getting this all together, but and it's not to show you guys that no, we're really working hard or anything. We're just really love this. That's how much we really love this. So we want you guys to love it just as much as us, and eventually get us more fans than the Cleveland Browns can ever think of Super Bowls.
yeah,
So
and I mean,
it's gonna be your point.
yeah, I mean, to add a Keelish, I mean, we're trying to also like we're trying to get more people to like really enjoy the football. I mean, there are a lot of people in this world who don't really get to see how fun football is, how intricate the chess of football really is, and kind
Hmm.
of understand like the little
Nuances.
facts about it that make it really fun. Football is one of the most diverse sports as far as what it brings to the table, as far as, just the different variations that you get on any given play, the unpredictability. And this is something like, we want to be able to kind of define that unpredictability, be able to kind of give people better insight on why something might happen, why why a team might win a Super Bowl, why a certain player might be good or bad, right? We really want to kind of break that down and give you guys a better understanding of the game, and what it really entails, and what it makes it so fun. And I mean, can't have this platform without your guys' support. And we hope to really get more fans, and be able to build a foundation that is better than the Cleveland Browns trophy case when it
Yeah,
comes to Super Bowls. But I mean, that's about it for today. I mean, Akilesh, I know you and I had fun. We're probably going
yeah.
to talk about the what if situation next week.
Next episode. Stay
Uh,
tuned for that, guys. Um, that's something that we're planning to add on just to make it more controversial. Just a little controversy, just a little bit more fun. So that's what we're planning to do. And as I said, hint hint, it is about the 49ers. So stay tuned. Next episode, we're gonna start off with that. And then just to end off things, guys, one thing we did want to mention is feel free to add in comments as to like what we can do to improve it, what are other new ideas can we bring to the table. We really really appreciate the feedback, because anybody in any situation or any field can only grow in something based on feedback that they get. So we really do appreciate you guys putting out feedback. So feel free in the comments to put out feedback, and
yeah, and go ahead.
go ahead.
I mean, yeah, and just adding on to what Akilesh said, like, make sure to share. Like, I mean, I know everyone who accesses these videos, like this is something that needs to grow. Like, if it wants to grow, it needs to get out to a larger platform, a more diverse population of perspectives on what feedback we can get. So I mean, make sure to spread this podcast out to your friends. Talk about like, talk about kind of like what could be better. Let's see if we can get this out to a bigger audience. And again, make sure to hit those buttons on the bottom. That's how our content gets out to bigger crowds, and that way
Yeah.
we are able to get better feedback and be able to continue to grow this audience and be able to grow this channel.
Yeah. Well, look, guys, we had fun here. We hope you had fun, and stay tuned for the next episode. We can't wait. Look, enjoy your time. We'll come back to you soon. See you guys.